Morning. It's all very well making plans, but things don't always turn out as you planned. We left this morning about 9 o'clock, got half an hour or so up the road, and all of a sudden I heard a bang in the van, and some warning lights come on. I stopped, pulled over, and John was ahead of me, so he rang up and said, "What's the problem?" On the phone, so I said, "I don't know. I've got a warning light come up on the van. I'm not sure what it is." So I said, "Stay where you are, I'll drive up to you and we'll have a look." So I drove up to John and we got the service manual out, and it said it was something to do with the brakes. Got underneath and fiddled around. I don't know what I was looking for, but just looking. And I noticed that the brake cable had come loose. Well, what we're going to do? So I said, "Oh, we'll have to get to a mechanic." Di looked on her phone and found there was one not too far from where we was, and we were on a country road. So lucky enough, it was about, I don't know, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour's drive, but the van's clunking, clunk, 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 clunk. Well, there's nothing I can do. We're either going to wait for a mobile mechanic, and that'd take ages. And so it's a front wheel drive, so I knew it wasn't a mechanical thing, the problem. It was coming from the back tyre. So we arrived at Gallopy Automotives Field and Towing Services, right out in the middle of nowhere actually, and went in there and spoke to the people there, and they said to me, "Well, we can't look at it now, we probably can't look at it till tomorrow." So I said, "Well, can I stay here in the motorhome, park up somewhere?" So he said, "We might have a chance to look at it this afternoon." So that's where I am now. I parked the van up, and I'll just show you around his yard. It's miles from anywhere actually, and hopefully he'll have a look at it this afternoon, and we'll go from there. But it's no big deal. It's a beautiful day again, so I've got my book, and I've got plenty of food, so I can do myself something to eat. John and Di have gone into town. They said, "We're going to town. We need to get some water and empty the toilet thing." So I'll just stay here and wait for the guy to tell me what's the next move. I'll do a quick shot. This is where we've drove up into the yard, and as you can see, there's an awful lot of smashed up cars here. They've all been in, obviously most of them look like they've been hit front on. Almost like a scrapyard. Everywhere you look there's cars and more cars. So lucky really to find this place. And we'll see what happens this afternoon. As you can see, this is the yard. Well out of the way. Well out of the way. Do. And that's the yard. So hopefully you get to look at it this afternoon and sort us out. And that's the van waiting to be looked at by the doctor. Hopefully he can sort it out and we'll be on our way, or late this afternoon or tomorrow. I can stay here the night, it doesn't really matter. I've got plenty of food. Right, so the update on the van was he called me over and said, "Bring your van in and we'll have a look." Drove it over to his workshop, so he got it up on the ramp, spun the wheel round, and he said to me, "Oh no, you've got a problem here. This is not going to be a 5-minute job. We're going to have to get those brakes off, the back wheel off, the brakes off. I'm going to have to order parts. They're going to be 2 or 3 days at least before I get them. And then I've got to fit them. I've got other jobs fitted in, blah, 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 blah." So I said, "Okay, what do we do?" "Well, that's up to you." So what do I do? I wasn't really sure. I thought I'll go into town and hire a car and come back in a week's time. I said to him, "Where's the best place for me to get a car?" So he said, "Well, the only one you'll get one to be sure is if you go to the airport and hire one from there." So when John come back, I told him what I thought was the best plan. So he said, "Okay, I'll drop you into town." So he drove me into the airport. We went into the airport, said, "I want to hire a car for a week." "How much do you reckon?" $900. I said, oh, this is mad. I just want a little car. Well, unfortunately, she said, the dearest place to hire is a car at the airport. Never hire a car from an airport. So I said, oh, well, I'll check and see if I can get a flight. So walked over to one of the flight desks. There was a young woman there, and I said to her, is it possible for me to get a flight this afternoon or this evening back to Brisbane? She had a look. She said, there's one leaving in 20 minutes. I'll see if I can get you on it. So she actually got me on a flight back to Brisbane. By the time she'd done me ticket, I walked through to the departure lounge and I was boarding. So it was perfect. And I stopped in Brisbane. My son lives in Brisbane, Troy. So got to the airport, give him a call, and I said, Troy, I'm in Brisbane, so I'll come and stop the night with you. And the next day I got a train from Brisbane back to Nambour, back to the Sunshine Coast. So it turned out to be a bit of a performance, but I suppose if you've got a motorhome and you're travelling, these are the things that can happen. So hopefully I'll get back and pick the van up when it's ready. But to me, it's not a problem. That's the beautiful thing when you get older, nothing's a problem. The only problems you got when someone says you've got cancer, that's the problem. Apart from that, you haven't got problems. You have little hiccups. But I just see them as another adventure. And I think it's great to still be having an adventure when you're in your 80s, as opposed to continually looking back and saying they were the best days, they were the wonderful days. Every day's a wonderful day, every day's a beautiful day. So we'll see how this pans out. So it ended up with planes and trains. Flying home to Brisbane and then getting a train from Brisbane back to the coast. So let's keep these adventures going, eh? This is me arriving at the airport. It was amazing. It was so much cheaper to get a flight back to Brisbane than to hire a car. Don't make sense. But it was a good flight. And now, next day, I'm on my train back to the Sunshine Coast. Trains, boats and planes.